Hello, this is Tom with the Tractor Rescue Ranch. This morning, I am going to get started on a project here. You can see we got a little dusting of snow overnight, maybe a half inch is all, not very much to be concerned with. But I mentioned in a previous video, I made this big cant here for a project, and I'm going to get started on that and see if I can pull it off. What I've got all of these ends up here on those I-beams I want to cover, and so I got to thinking the best way to do that might be to just bring just a little bit of an awning type thing come in this direction, and that would cover and protect all of those I-beams from the weather. And so that's what I planned on doing. And in order to do that, I don't want to buy the tin. You can see I've got this north half of this piece covered and part of the south half covered, but I've got the tin ordered to finish this project here, but I don't want to buy the tin to cover that awning. So I've always wanted to make homemade shingles, and so I'm going to take this cant up to the sawmill and up to the bandsaw, the old homemade bandsaw, and do some testing, some playing around on making homemade shingles. Okay, so this is my test, my ongoing test here. But anyway, I have watched several videos and of people trying to do things this way, and it seems like every one of them abandoned the idea. If this is the main cant, not what I've got there, but if this is the main cant and you put it in here this direction, the way the blade is supposed to cut, you have to make a jig that will teeter this up and down. And so the idea is to do one there, one there, one there, all the way down. And so you have to have some way to efficiently teeter them up and down so that you have a thick end and a thin end. But I've seen a few people put them in this way. So if you had a jig to hold them in this direction, and the whole jig you could just build to teeter up and down, and you just teeter up and down the whole thing with all of these lined up down here in a line like this. And it seems like everybody that's tried to do it this way that I've watched give up on the idea, because when you're cutting this way down the grain, it pulls out big strips of sawdust instead of the little easy flakes of sawdust. It pulls out long curly strips of sawdust, and it always plugs up the bandsaw. Everybody on these commercial bandsaws have safety covers over the blades and everything, and it plugs up and doesn't fall out. And so pretty much everybody I've seen trying to do it this way has abandoned the idea because of the fact that the sawdust won't evacuate like it's supposed to. So I thought I'd try to do a test here to see how it turned out, because this homemade band mill doesn't have any of those covers to get plugged up. And so I did one cut here, and it seemed to work great. So I'll do a few more. So anyway, if I had a whole line of these blocks lined up in a jig and then just tipped it up and down so that you get one end thick and the other end thin, that would work just perfectly that way. And the jig is a lot simpler and a lot easier to do. So I'll show you how things turned out here. So that's cutting just fine, going that direction. The sawdust is a little bit bigger chunks than what I generally get doing it that way, but it's doing just fine that way. In fact, a guy may be able to just not even rock it back and forth. I'm sure it would be a lot better to have one end thin and one end thick. So I think what I'll do, I'll pull one more test here. And I'll just put a little spacer in here to simulate as with the jig finished. I'll put this here to simulate what it would be like if so you can do a thick end and thin end, rocking it back and forth. So there's my shingle. Man, that turned out good. So what you do, you have it up like that, and so you pull this out and flip it down for the next cut, and then it will go the opposite way. Man, that is working beautiful. So it'll just be a matter of testing this a little bit and rigging how much change I need when I rock it up and down right here, so that I end up with the close to the same thicknesses. So there's my first 2 shingles. That just worked beautifully. So they'll end up on the roof. Kind of like this. Pretty cool. So I got the proof of concept here. So all I have to do now is go ahead and make my jig, and I'll go ahead and get that made in another video and see if we can start putting together shingles. Thanks for watching.